The USS Outlier drifted silently through the void, her scarred hull catching the dim light of a distant star. Once a state-of-the-art patrol frigate, she now resembled little more than a moving junkyard, relegated to the most remote sectors of Earth's defense perimeter. Her faded insignia and battle-worn exterior told stories of conflicts long past and glory long forgotten. Captain Mara Ellis stood on the bridge, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she gazed out at the stars. At 42, she wore her experience in the fine lines around her eyes and in the streak of silver that cut through her otherwise dark hair. The brass had sidelined her years ago, too, outspoken, too principled for the political games that determined advancement in the fleet. The Outlier was her consolation prize, or perhaps her punishment. Captain incoming transmission from Fleet Command announced Lieutenant Jax Moreno from the tactical station. Young, ambitious, and torn between loyalty to his captain and dreams of serving on a flagship, Moreno's clean-cut appearance and by-the-book demeanor contrasted sharply with the relaxed atmosphere Ellis cultivated on her bridge. On screen, Lieutenant Ellis replied, turning to face the main view screen. The face of Admiral Yoshida appeared, his expression as stern as ever. Captain Ellis, new orders. The Maiden Fleet is embarking on a goodwill tour of the Haykar Confederation worlds. The Outlier will trail behind at a distance of no less than 5 light minutes. Ellis raised an eyebrow. May I ask why Admiral the Outlier is due for systems maintenance at Proxima Station? Consider this your new assignment, Yoshida replied coolly. You'll follow the fleet, but stay well out of sight. The Haykar dignitaries are particular about appearances. They've requested only our newest ships for the diplomatic mission. Ellis felt her jaw tighten but maintained her composure. I see. And if we encounter any issues? You observe and report only, Captain. Do not engage or interfere under any circumstances. Is that clear? Crystal, Admiral. Ellis replied, her voice neutral, despite the frustration building within her. The transmission ended, and Ellis turned to find her bridge crew watching her. They knew what this meant. They were the embarrassing relatives asked to wait in the car while the rest of the family attended the party. Well, Ellis said with a wry smile, looks like we've been invited to the diplomatic ball. We just can't come inside. A ripple of bitter laughter spread across the bridge. They were used to this treatment. Setting course to shadow the fleet captain, announced the navigator, a young ensign whose enthusiasm hadn't yet been dampened by the reality of serving on the fleet's least prestigious vessel. Ellis nodded. Maintain that 5 light-minute buffer as ordered. No sense giving the Admiral another reason to reprimand us. As the bridge crew busied themselves with their tasks, Ellis made her way down to engineering. If they were embarking on an extended mission, she wanted to make sure the old girl would hold together. Engineering was Lena Zhao's domain. The chief engineer had been with the Outlier almost as long as Ellis, rejecting numerous offers to transfer to newer ships. Brilliant, methodical, and chronically underestimated Zhao had turned the Outlier's outdated systems into a patchwork marvel of innovation. Ellis found her buried waist-deep in an access panel, muttering to herself as she made adjustments to something that definitely didn't look standard issue. Should I be concerned about whatever unauthorized modifications you're making to my ship, Chief? Ellis asked, though her tone carried no real admonishment. Zhao extracted herself from the panel, wiping grease from her hands with a rag. At 40, her face showed the focused intensity of someone who lived for solving complex problems. Just some efficiency improvements, Captain. Nothing to worry about. Ellis knew better. For years, Zhao had been quietly upgrading the Outlier with experimental tech that would never have passed Fleet Command's conservative approval process. Ellis maintained plausible deniability by never asking for specifics, but she suspected her engineer had turned the aging patrol ship into something far more capable than its official specifications suggested. We're trailing the diplomatic fleet to Haykar space, Ellis informed her. Admiral wants us to keep our distance, wouldn't want to embarrass the fleet with our presence. Zhao's expression darkened. The Haykar, I don't trust them. They've been our allies for 30 years, Ellis reminded her, though she shared the sentiment. Allies of convenience, Zhao countered. Have you seen how they look at us during joint exercises? Like we're children playing with toys. Ellis couldn't argue with that. The Haykar Confederation had made contact with humanity 3 decades ago, offering technology and protection in exchange for resource rights in several star systems. On paper, it was a fair deal. In practice, the relationship had grown increasingly one-sided as humanity discovered just how vast the technological gap truly was. Well, orders are orders, Ellis said. We follow at a distance and observe, nothing more. Zhao nodded, but Ellis noticed her glance toward a sealed compartment in the far corner of engineering, a compartment that didn't appear in any of the ship's official schematics. As Ellis left engineering, she couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be different. 30 years of uneasy peace with the Haykar had lulled many into complacency, but Ellis had always sensed something beneath their diplomatic veneer, something calculating and patient. The outlier broke orbit and set course for the rendezvous point, where they would begin shadowing the fleet. On the bridge, the usual chatter had resumed, jokes and banter that spoke of a crew with more familiarity than discipline. They were outcasts together, proud in their own way, despite being the ship no one wanted to see. Captain, Lieutenant Moreno called out, as Ellis returned to the bridge. Long-range scans show the fleet has already departed with the Haykar delegation. Estimated time to intercept at our current speed is 47 hours. Acknowledged, Ellis replied, settling into her command chair. Let's not keep our illustrious fleet waiting, though I doubt they'll notice if we're late. As the outlier accelerated toward its assignment, Ellis couldn't help but wonder why Fleet Command would send their most decrepit ship on what should have been a routine observation mission. Perhaps it was truly about appearances, or perhaps someone in command shared her unease about the Haykar and wanted a set of eyes they could trust, even if they'd never admit it. Either way, the outlier would do its duty, remaining the shadow no one acknowledged, until the moment it was needed. Ellis had a strange feeling that moment might come sooner than anyone expected. The journey to Haykar space passed without incident, the outlier maintaining its prescribed distance from the diplomatic fleet ahead. Ellis used the time to run battle drills, much to the confusion of her crew. With all due respect, Captain, Moreno questioned during one such exercise, these are diplomatic missions. Why the combat scenarios, Bosch? Ellis studied him for a moment. Lieutenant, in my experience, it's precisely when everyone expects peace that you should be most prepared for conflict. The diplomatic tour proceeded as planned, with the Earth fleet visiting 3 Haykar worlds in succession. From their distant vantage point, the outlier observed the proceedings through long-range sensors, recording the formal exchanges and ceremonies that characterize such events. It was during the 4th stop, a refueling at Haykar Station Vega, that the routine changed. Captain, I'm picking up anomalous energy readings from the station, reported the sensor operator, frowning at her console. Multiple Haykar cruiser squadrons are experiencing communications blackouts. Ellis straightened in her chair. Show me. The main screen displayed the massive Haykar station, surrounded by the elegant curved forms of their warships. Several were emitting unusual energy patterns, their normal communication signatures gone dark. Analysis, Ellis demanded. Unknown, Captain, the officer replied. But the pattern is consistent with weapons charging sequences we've observed during joint exercises. Ellis turned to Moreno. Contact Fleet Command Priority Channel. Moments later, Admiral Yoshida's face appeared on screen, his expression impatient. This had better be important, Captain. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple Haykar vessels at Station Vega. Communication blackouts across their squadrons. Pattern suggests weapon systems activation. Yoshida's frown deepened. Your orders were to observe and report, which you've now done. We have the situation well in hand, Captain. The Haykar have explained they're conducting routine security drills. With all due respect, Admiral, these signatures don't match any drills we've... Your concerns are noted, Captain, Yoshida cut her off. Maintain your position and do not interfere. That's an order. Yoshida out. The screen went dark, leaving Ellis staring at the distant station, where Earth's flagship fleet now seemed terribly vulnerable. "Orders, Captain," Moreno asked, tension evident in his voice. Ellis considered her options. Direct disobedience meant court-martial, yet every instinct told her something was wrong. "Maintain position, but go to yellow alert. I want all systems ready." She stood, making her way to the turbolift. "I'll be in engineering. Lieutenant, you have the bridge." Zhao was already waiting when Ellis arrived in engineering, her expression grave. "You've seen it too." "The energy signatures," Ellis confirmed. "Fleet Command says it's routine drills." "It's not," Zhao stated flatly. "I've been monitoring them through our enhanced sensor package. Those are targeting systems activating, Captain, the kind used for mass bombardment." Ellis's blood ran cold. "You're certain?" In response, Zhao led her to the sealed compartment Ellis had noticed earlier. A palm scanner appeared from a hidden panel, and the door slid open to reveal a small laboratory filled with technology Ellis didn't recognize. "What am I looking at, Chief?" "What I've been working on for the past 5 years," Zhao replied, activating a holographic display that showed detailed scans of the Haykar vessels. "This is an adaptive shielding matrix I developed after studying Haykar defensive systems. And this," she pointed to another schematic, "is a compact high-frequency phase resonance cannon." Ellis stared at her in disbelief. "You built weapon systems that aren't in any fleet technical manual on my ship without authorization?" "Yes," Zhao answered simply, "because I knew this day would come." The confidence in Zhao's voice gave Ellis pause. "Explain." "The Haykar never saw us as allies, Captain. They've been studying us, cataloging our weaknesses. I've been decrypting their transmissions for years. Transmissions, our official intelligence says, are impenetrable." "That's treason, Chief," Ellis said quietly. "Only if I'm wrong," Zhao countered. "Look at these scans, Captain. Those aren't drills. That's an armada preparing for war." Ellis studied the data, the tactical officer in her recognizing the formations and energy signatures for what they were: preparation for a coordinated attack. If Zhao was right, the Haykar were positioning themselves to strike at Earth's diplomatic fleet, possibly as the first move in a larger assault. "We have to warn them," Ellis said. "We tried. They didn't listen," Zhao replied. "But we can do more than warn them. The Outlier is the only ship they don't take seriously, the only blind spot in their calculations." Ellis understood then why Zhao had never requested a transfer to a more prestigious assignment. She'd been turning the Outlier into a weapon hidden in plain sight. "Show me what we've got," Ellis demanded. Zhao's hidden laboratory revealed technological innovations that would have earned her the highest scientific honors in peacetime, or a court-martial for unauthorized weapons development during this uneasy peace. The adaptive shielding matrix could analyze and match enemy shield frequencies, allowing the Outlier's weapons to penetrate where others would be repelled. The phase resonance cannon, meanwhile, was a precision instrument that could deliver devastating energy directly to a target's weak points, bypassing conventional defenses. "All this time," Ellis murmured, "while they mockingly called us the Relic. We've been becoming something else entirely," Zhao finished. Ellis faced a captain's worst dilemma: follow orders and potentially watch Earth's fleet be destroyed, or act on incomplete information and risk starting the very conflict she feared was coming. "How quickly can your systems be brought online?" she asked finally. "They already are," Zhao replied. "They've been ready for months. I was just waiting for you to ask." Ellis returned to the bridge with new resolve, finding Moreno exactly where she'd left him, vigilantly monitoring the situation. "Status report, Lieutenant." "The Haykar energy buildup continues, Captain. Our diplomatic fleet remains in standard formation, apparently unaware of any threat." Ellis nodded, taking her seat. "Lieutenant, I'm about to directly violate Admiral Yoshida's orders. I believe the Haykar are positioning for an attack. I intend to move the Outlier closer to investigate further. If you object, now is the time to say so for the record." Moreno studied her face, and Ellis could see the conflict in his eyes, career ambition warring with his trust in her judgment. "I stand with the captain," he said finally. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Ellis acknowledged. "Helm set course to intercept the Haykar fleet. Maximum stealth approach. We'll use the station's shadow to mask our signature." As the Outlier altered course, Ellis addressed the bridge crew. "I believe we may be witnessing the prelude to an attack on our fleet. I have no proof beyond sensor readings that contradict the official explanation. By taking this action, I am risking all our careers and possibly our lives. If anyone wishes to register an objection, now is the time." The bridge remained silent, each officer meeting her gaze with determination. "Very well," Ellis continued. "Battle stations. And may we be wrong about all of this." The Outlier slipped into the shadow of Station Vega, its aging stealth system supplemented by Zhao's modifications. From this closer vantage point, their enhanced sensors provided a clearer picture of the Haykar fleet's activities. "Captain," Moreno reported urgently, "I'm detecting multiple weapons locks, Haykar cruisers targeting our diplomatic vessels." Ellis's decision was made in an instant. "Red alert. Helm full impulse intercept course. Tactical prepare to deploy countermeasures." As the Outlier broke from its hiding place, a priority communication came through not from Fleet Command, but from an Earth convoy approaching from the outer system. "This is Captain Reeves of the merchant vessel Horizon," came a strained voice. "We're under escort by Haykar ships claiming routine inspection, but they've begun boarding procedures with armed personnel. Request immediate—" The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by static. "Located the convoy," Moreno reported. 6 Earth merchant ships, 2 Haykar escorts. 20 light minutes from our position." Ellis's jaw tightened. "The merchants are a diversion. The real target is our diplomatic fleet." She turned to Zhao, who had joined them on the bridge. "Chief, is your resonance cannon ready?" "Yes, Captain, but using it will reveal our capabilities. If we miss our shot—" "Then we'd better not miss," Ellis replied grimly. "Helm new course. Maximum speed to the merchant convoy." The Outlier surged forward, pushing its aging engines beyond their rated capacity. Ellis knew they were committing fully. Now there would be no turning back, no plausible explanation to offer Fleet Command other than absolute certainty in their suspicions. Captain Moreno called out, "Haykar flagship is charging main batteries. They're targeting the merchant vessels." Ellis watched in horror as brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the Haykar vessel, slicing through the hull of the lead merchant ship. The vessel broke apart, debris and bodies spilling into the vacuum. "Adaptive shields online," Ellis ordered. "Weapons hot. Target the Haykar flagship's weapon array." As the Outlier raced toward the conflict, Haykar sensors finally detected them. A communication channel opened, revealing the face of a Haykar commander, his elongated features set in an expression of contempt. "Human vessel, you are interfering in Confederation security operations. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Ellis ignored the threat. "Chief, reroute auxiliary power to the shields. Tactical fire resonance cannon on my mark." The Outlier placed itself between the remaining merchant ships and the Haykar cruisers. From the outside, it must have seemed absurd an obsolete patrol frigate challenging 2 state-of-the-art warships. "Target locked," Moreno confirmed. Ellis leaned forward in her chair. "Fire!" There was no visible beam, no dramatic light show, just a ripple in space as the resonance cannon discharged. The effect, however, was immediate and catastrophic. The energy bolt passed straight through the Haykar flagship's shields, as if they weren't there, striking the weapons array with pinpoint accuracy. The impact created a cascade failure, the resonance spreading through the ship's systems, until the bow section imploded, crushed by its own shield generators. For a moment, silence reigned on the Outlier's bridge, as the crew stared in amazement at what they'd accomplished. "Remaining Haykar cruiser is powering weapons," Moreno reported, breaking the spell. "Fire again," Ellis ordered, and the second cruiser suffered the same fate as the first, its sleek design crumpling under forces its engineers had never anticipated. "All merchant vessels secure," Moreno confirmed. But Captain Long-Range Sensors show the main Haykar fleet has begun their attack on our diplomatic vessels. Ellis's mind raced through the tactical situation. The Outlier had revealed its capabilities, but the element of surprise was still with them. The main Haykar fleet couldn't possibly know what had happened here. "Set course for the main fleet, maximum speed," she ordered, "and open a channel to Admiral Yoshida." When the Admiral's face appeared on screen, his expression quickly shifted from annoyance to shock as Ellis transmitted the sensor logs of the Haykar attack on the merchant vessels. "Captain Ellis, what have you done?" he demanded. "Save those merchant ships. Admiral and I intend to do the same for our fleet. The Outlier is equipped with experimental defenses that can counter Haykar weapons. Request permission to engage." Yoshida's hesitation was brief. "Permission granted, Captain, but I want a full explanation when this is over." "You'll have it, sir. Outlier out." The ship accelerated toward the main conflict where Earth's finest vessels were already taking heavy damage from the Haykar Armada. Though technologically advanced by human standards, Earth's ships were clearly outmatched by the alien warships. "Chief, what's our shield status?" Ellis asked as they approached. "Holding at 92%, but the resonance cannon is heating up. 3, maybe 4 more shots before the power conduits melt." Ellis nodded grimly. "Make them count. Tactical target the command ships first." The Outlier plunged into the midst of battle, its rainbow-hued adaptive shields shimmering as they absorbed Haykar weapons fire. With each precisely aimed shot of the resonance cannon, another enemy vessel fell silent. Its systems collapsed. Captain Zhao called out urgently, "I've isolated the frequency the Haykar use for fleet-wide tactical communications. If we reconfigure the resonance cannon to broadcast on that band, we could trigger a system-wide shutdown." "Do it," Ellis ordered without hesitation. Zhao worked frantically at her console, rerouting systems and modifying the cannon's output. "Ready, Captain, but this will drain our remaining weapon power. It's all or nothing." Ellis surveyed the battlefield, where despite the Outlier's intervention, Earth ships continued to fall to the overwhelming Haykar force. "Execute." The modified resonance pulse swept outward in an invisible wave, penetrating the Haykar fleet's communications network. One by one, 8 warships suddenly went dark, their engines and weapon systems shutting down as the data surge overwhelmed their control systems. On the Outlier, warning klaxons sounded as systems throughout the ship began to fail. "Shields at 10% and falling," Moreno reported. "Weapon systems overheating. Power fluctuations on all decks." The ship shuddered violently as a Haykar cruiser, operating on backup systems, managed to land a glancing blow. "This ship's going to break apart," Moreno warned, clinging to his console, as another tremor rocked the bridge. Mara Ellis gazed out at the battlefield where the once mighty Haykar Armada now drifted in disarray, and Earth vessels were regrouping. "Then let it," she said quietly. "They'll remember us." But the Outlier wasn't finished yet. With its remaining power, the ship limped through the debris field, coordinating the rescue of Earth personnel from damaged vessels and herding the surviving ships toward the nearest friendly outpost. Hours later, as the last Earth vessel jumped to safety, Ellis finally gave the order. "Set course for the nearest repair facility. Best possible speed." The Outlier dragged itself away from the battlefield, leaving behind the wreckage of a Haykar Armada that had underestimated the ship no one took seriously. The journey back to Earth took weeks with the Outlier, stopping at multiple outposts for emergency repairs. What would normally have been a simple return trip became a victory tour as news of the aging frigate's impossible triumph spread throughout human space. By the time they reached Earth, orbit a full honor guard awaited them. The ship that had once been hidden from sight now took center stage, escorted by the fleet's finest vessels as it made its final approach. Ellis stood on the bridge watching as they approached the massive space dock that would become the Outlier's temporary home, while it underwent extensive repairs and, more importantly, detailed study of Zhao's innovations. "Docking procedure complete, Captain," the helm officer reported. "Well done," Ellis replied. "All hands prepare for boarding and debriefing." As predicted, The debriefing was intense. For 3 days, Ellis and her senior officers explained in exhaustive detail the modifications Zhao had made, the intelligence she had gathered, and the decisions that led to their engagement with the Haykar forces. On the 4th day, Ellis found herself in the Fleet Admiral's office, facing not just Yoshida, but the entire Admiralty Board. Captain Ellis, began the Fleet Admiral, an imposing woman whose distinguished career spanned the entirety of humanity's interstellar presence. Your actions represent both a serious breach of protocol and one of the most significant military victories in Earth's history. Ellis stood at attention, prepared for whatever judgment they had reached. The unauthorized weapons development alone would warrant court-martial under normal circumstances, the Admiral continued. However, these are not normal circumstances. The Haykar Confederation has withdrawn from all diplomatic contact and recalled their representatives. Intelligence suggests they are reassessing their approach to Earth. In other words, Yoshida added, "You've bought us time we desperately need." The Fleet Admiral nodded. Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting. We're establishing a new division focused on adaptive defense technologies, based on Chief Engineer Zhao's designs. We want the Outlier to serve as the prototype for the next-generation Defender-class battleships. Ellis blinked in surprise. The Outlier, sir. Your ship has proven its worth, Captain. More importantly, your crew has demonstrated the initiative and ingenuity we'll need to survive in this new reality you've helped create. The meeting concluded with Ellis receiving new orders, not punishment, but promotion. The Outlier would remain under her command, but with expanded authority and resources to continue developing the technologies that had saved the fleet. When Ellis returned to the Outlier, she found Zhao in engineering, already working with a team of fleet scientists to formalize her designs. "Congratulations on your new research command," Ellis said, joining her at a workstation. Zhao looked up, a rare smile crossing her face. "They're actually listening now. It only took nearly starting an interstellar war. Speaking of which," Ellis lowered her voice, "what's your assessment? Will they be back?" Zhao's expression sobered. "Without question. They underestimated us, particularly this ship. They won't make that mistake again." Ellis nodded. It was the answer she'd expected. The Haykar hadn't become one of the dominant forces in this sector by accepting defeat. They would analyze, adapt, and return stronger than before. Later that evening, Ellis found Moreno in the officer's lounge, staring out at the Earth below. "Lieutenant," she greeted him, "I have news. You've been selected as executive officer for the UES Vigilant, our newest flagship." Moreno turned surprise evident in his expression. "Captain, You deserve it," Ellis cut him off. "Your actions during the battle demonstrated exactly the kind of judgment and courage the fleet needs in its leadership." Moreno straightened. "Thank you, Captain, but I'd like to respectfully decline." Now it was Ellis's turn to be surprised. "May I ask why?" "The real advancements, the meaningful work, it's happening here on the Outlier. I've requested to remain as your XO if you'll have me." Ellis studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I'd be honored, Commander Moreno." The promotion was effective, immediately acknowledging what Ellis had seen in him from the beginning, an officer who had finally found his true, north-choosing purpose over prestige. In the days that followed, the Outlier underwent a transformation. While its exterior remained deliberately weathered, now a tactical advantage, rather than a mark of shame, its interior hummed with new technology and expanded capabilities. Zhao's laboratory was no longer a secret compartment, but the nucleus of a major research initiative, with the engineer herself leading a team of the fleet's brightest minds. 1 month after their return, Ellis stood on the observation deck, watching as space dock crews made the final adjustments to the ship's exterior. The Outlier's hull had been patched and reinforced, but deliberately left scarred, a reminder of what they had endured and overcome. "Captain, to the bridge," came the call over the intercom. When Ellis arrived, Moreno was standing by the long-range sensor display, his expression grim. "What is it, Commander?" "Long-range probes have detected activity at the edge of Haykar space," he reported. "They're mobilizing, Captain. Larger ships, new configurations we haven't seen before." Ellis moved to stand beside him, studying the readings. The Haykar fleet was indeed reforming stronger, more numerous, and undoubtedly wiser about Earth's capabilities. "How long?" she asked quietly. "At their current pace of mobilization, 6 months, maybe less." Ellis nodded, turning to address the bridge crew. Every face showed the same determination. She felt the understanding that they had won a battle, but the war was just beginning. "Alert Fleet Command," she ordered, "and prepare the Outlier for departure. We have work to do." As her crew sprang into action, Ellis returned her gaze to the tactical display, where the gathering Haykar fleet represented both a threat and an opportunity. The path ahead would be dangerous, demanding innovations and sacrifices yet unimagined. But for the first time since first contact, humanity was truly awake to the reality of their position in the cosmos. And it had taken the ship no one took seriously to sound the alarm. The Outlier's hull may have been patched, its systems upgraded, but its greatest strength remained unchanged, a crew that had learned to see opportunity, where others saw only obsolescence, and a captain who understood that sometimes the most important orders were the ones you chose to disobey. As the ship broke orbit under its own power, Ellis settled into her command chair, ready to face whatever came next. The real battle for humanity's survival had just begun, and this time, no one would be making the mistake of overlooking the Outlier or its captain ever again.